Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
8:07 here on this 19th day of June. A good Juneteenth to all who have the day off. We're here with you. Coming up in 30 minutes, KT McFarland. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Juneteenth, everybody.
Amen.
Many, rightly so, believe the media in this country is culpable in covering up the obvious decline of the 46th president of the United States. The scrutiny that was baselessly directed at President Trump during his first term was wholly absent from the media coverage of the Biden White House. The media lacked any sense of curiosity that would naturally stem from what the public could see with their own eyes.
That, of course, is Sean Spicer, host of The Sean Spicer Show and former White House press secretary, testifying yesterday before a Senate Judiciary Committee called Unfit to Serve, How the Biden Cover-Up Endangered America and Undermined the Constitution. And I'm so glad, Sean, first of all, and grateful that you're joining us this morning. And I'm so glad you kept the media in your sights as well, as they are incredibly culpable for part of this cover-up. Thank you for joining us. What were you shocked that the Democrats didn't even show for this thing?
I'm so glad you led with this, Larry. I literally, because of just my background, sort of my experiences, I war gamed this out. My team and I sat down and we were like, okay, if Durbin comes at us, and I have a young woman on my staff that is just phenomenal. She went through every single person and was like, okay, based on the last few witnesses that they've gone through, this is their normal line of attack.
So you did the murder boards. You planned it all out.
Yeah. I was ready. I was like full spider monkey prepared. I was like, all right, here we go. And then they walk in and they go, so first I get the word, there's no minority witnesses. Not calling. I said, okay, all right, I get that. But then they sort of start coming at, then Durbin walks in, Peter Welch from Vermont. Durbin, they say, staff says, Senator Durbin's going to give an opening statement, show a video, and leave. And I'm like, okay, and then what? And they're like, Senator Welch is probably going to stay. I'm like, okay, and then they were like, but he probably is going to leave. And I'm like, and literally, no, you have to look at the video. Now, I've been committee staff. I served on the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. I was the Budget Committee spokesman, the House Government Reform and Oversight spokesman. So I have a lot of committee experience. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just the Dem members that got up and left or didn't show. Their staff walked out too.
Wow. So,
let's say something happened. They weren't even there. But here's the bigger point on all this. I can't help myself sometimes. If somebody, I literally am the epitome of mansplaining. I do it to other men. If you call me and say, Sean, I'm hungry, I'm like, Larry, I got 18 places to go for lunch. Here's where I would go. Now, the upside of going here is that you're going to, right?
I can independently verify this about his personality. Right. You rarely get a short answer from Sean Spice.
Right, but you also don't even need to have a real problem. I'll create one for you and give you the solution.
Sean,
after the hearing. Just 1 second, Patrice. I'm sorry, but I literally, after the hearing, I walked up to the staff, to the majority staff, and I was like, guys, they should have done the following. They could have come at me. This was all about decision-making. If I were them, I would have been like, okay, you think decision-making is so important. You're proud of how President Trump handled. Well, here's 10 decisions. Do you agree with them? Do you explain the process here? They literally were derelict in their duty. If you are a Democrat right now, today, you understand that they are waving the white flag. The DNC is in turmoil. They can't staff a committee hearing. At some point, this is sixth grade. They're going to call me, can you send 2 players over?
So, Sean, I watched some of the hearing.
Bobby, can we get Bobby back? Tulsi, come on, give us Tulsi, give us somebody. This isn't fair anymore.
All right,
Sorry,
Sean. Well,
Patrice.
it's okay. I watched this. I watched the hearing though yesterday, and I watched your performance. Obviously you were spectacular, but you got all easy questions, right? And you called out the media. My question was the point of the hearing to just be reflective, to look back on how the Biden administration, the use of the auto pen, the fact that President Biden was like MIA mentally, and who was running the show. But what's the forward forward-looking piece of this. Are there guardrails that Congress could enact to make sure that this doesn't happen again? I mean, I've been asked that question, and I think it's a good question to ask. Otherwise, people will say, "Oh, it's just Republicans' political theater," which I know it wasn't political theater. There is something that can be done. I don't know if you have any ideas, though.
Well, first of all, it's a great question. And to the beginning part of your statement, I finally know what it's like to be a Democratic spokesman. Like, I felt like, oh, my God, this is what Jen Psaki went through. You sit around and get questions you can just answer, and no one's attacking you. This is literally what Jen Psaki went through. Wow. How cool is that? So I mean, I was like, is Cornyn going to come after me? What about this Ted Cruz guy? Is he going all Tucker Carlson? Like, I was like, someone's got to come after me. This isn't normal. Let's go, Josh Hawley. Bring it. I so desperately just wanted to, at some point during the entire hearing, I just wanted to go, no, you don't sit down, Senator. But I couldn't do it.
Not even Jim Acosta.
Anyway, I know. I was like, I got to do. I mean, but here's to Patrice's question. I think it's a really important one. There's two things. One of the things that came out of yesterday's hearing that, of course, the media didn't want to hear or will act on is the fact that the gentleman sitting to my right, who's at Heritage Foundation now, he was in the Domestic Policy Council working with Stephen Miller in the first term, noted is that, like, and this is so true, I just, because of my purview, that wasn't what I was asked to share. Mm-hmm. But he brought up the fact that, like, every decision, it's called the decision memo that gets staffed in the White House. So if the president's making a decision, it gets staffed. It says, here are the 10 people that were part of this decision. This is what they recommend. And then usually the memo goes to the president, says concur with comments, decline with comments. So, like, there's a record. And he was like, for all of these things, the first and foremost thing is we should know whether or not, like, there should be paperwork to back up every decision. That's number one. Number two, and that's sort of the rear view mirror, right? But then going forward, number one, I suggested, look, Dr. O'Connor, President Biden's doctor, it's one thing to have HIPAA stuff. So it's like, here's, he doesn't necessarily have to do so. But when he writes in the affirmative on a piece of paper, President Biden is fit to serve and is in great character, whatever, that's his opinion. And he should be held accountable to sort of answer for this. And so to answer your question, I think one of the points that I made to the committee was that, they were talking about the 25th Amendment and the cabinet, and they're all appointed. But at the end of the day, the doctor is usually a military doctor. And in the case of Dr. O'Connor, he had been retired. But the bottom line is there could be some way in which the doctor of the physician of the president of the United States has to affirm in some way every year that the president is fit for office. And then the doctor can be held accountable. I think there were some other suggestions. Some of them deserve discussion. But here's my point. The cabinet is appointed by the president. It's a very high bar to say, it's like you see it every day with Larry. But are you going to go to Bill Hess or anybody in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Center and say Larry's got a problem? Probably not, because you guys are so. Part of this
gratuitous attack on me there. I don't know if you noticed. It was really unnecessary.
No, that's just I know. I have to be honest with the audience. It's just something that I
they appreciate it too.
Yeah. So I think to answer your question, there are things that can be done going forward. But the thing that was also interesting that came out of the hearing is that if you look at the pattern of presidents in the past, FDR, Kennedy even, like, of health issues and matters being covered up, it's literally like a Democratic thing. Like, this is what they do. It's actually, there were a lot of things that came out of this. So I think the biggest answer is, and number two is, I would just say this, like, it's on us. We all saw it. And the point that I made in response to, I think, Senator Katie Britt of Alabama yesterday was part of this, and part of what the White House, again, the media, the role that we all play, you guys, Larry with his other show, you at the Independent Women's Forum, like, we all have a voice now in a way that we didn't 5-10 years ago because of these platforms that are available to us. And part of the point that I made to Senator Britt was she was asking about accountability. Is I said, do you think back, the White House stripped 440 independent journalists of their White House hard pass. And part of that was so that they could limit accountability and access of people who would ask tough questions. And yet no one at the time, the White House Correspondents Association, which apparently just sleeps in the blanket of democracy and the First Amendment every night, didn't say a word upkeep. So the point is that when we see these things happen, instead of just allowing them, and I know that, I and others sort of, and a lot of the independent journalists banged pots and pans when they did this. But I think the point is that Congress should have gotten out there and said, wait a second, what's happening? You guys are for all these people who care about journalism and the First Amendment, no one said a word. And the reason, as I noted, is because they didn't want the accountability.
Yeah.
Yep. You're right.
And that's, so there are
that's
things.
Right.
There are
they
things
were. That's why they didn't show up yesterday too, because they were part of it. Sean, we got to leave it there quickly, though. Super quickly. Did any of the Republican senators pull you aside afterwards and try to recruit you to run against Mark Warner? Because that's the only thing that occurred to me. You were so statesmanlike. You were you could.
Yes.
Thank you.
You looked great too.
Thank you. Well, it's a lot of makeup. No, I honestly, I will never ever say never, because that's a dumb thing to do. But I can't ever envision a scenario in which it's not part of a prison sentence that I would run for office.
All right, that's fair. Well, listen, don't rule that out either. Actually.
Right. That's why I say I don't rule anything out. I may not run, but it may be part of the prison sentence. But I can't. Right. As much as I would love to enjoy it, I can't imagine putting myself and my family through that.
Always good. Well, think of the people. The people of Virginia need you. Thank you for joining us. We got to leave it there.
Thanks, Sean.
Good job yesterday. Well done.
You bet, guys. Have a great one. Take care. Happy Juneteenth, guys.
Let's get straight to it.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
So on this Juneteenth, let's look at how things are going at ABC News. As Whoopi Goldberg, one of the chief ABC News correspondents, reporters, journalists, hosts, analysts, I'm not sure what the title is, but she is part of ABC News. She got into a conversation with Alyssa, and I got to listen. We criticize her a lot. Alyssa Farah Griffin actually delivered a little bit of pushback on these, on the banshees there, by saying how bad things are in Iran for women and for gay people. Whoopi Goldberg, though, had to make the point, hey, things are really bad here for blacks, and, then here's how it went.
Just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
I'm sorry, but where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing compared to the United States.
Keep hanging black people. So
it is not even the same. I couldn't step foot during this.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto.
Listen, I'm sorry.
What, they wear like I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
I'm telling you,
I literally said it was up to the Iranian people.
Yes,
it is up to them.
And that's why I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference is not good, whoever does it. It's not good. So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant.
This gets worse, and I'll play it, but I just want to step in.
Worse.
It gets worse. I just want to. Two things always annoy me about this. Number one, the audience reaction just freaks me out. Honestly, that they all love that. Number two, I love that it's like murder is murder. Okay, the point here is this is government-sanctioned murder. It's actually not. See, the horrific race or gay or whatever other murders and crimes that Whoopi Goldberg wants to point out that may or may not happen in this country now or 50 years ago, it's not carried out by the government. It's like a random lunatic may do that. The whole point here is this is official government policy in Iran.
Exactly.
And the fact that she is a moral idiot. Whoopi Goldberg has absolutely no moral distinction in her bones here.
And she's intentionally conflating what happened in the 1960s and 50s in the United States to today, whereas what Alyssa is saying is, no, I'm talking about today. Step forward in time, Whoopi.
Right. Here she goes a little bit further, cut 28 here.
Listen, I'm sorry. When you think about the fact that we got the vote in 1965.
They don't have free and fair elections in Iran. It's not even the same universe. They can't go out of their house. The women.
You know what? There's no way I can make you understand.
No, let me try something. It's like try to reverse roles with a black person in this country, let's say, because I think that's what you're talking about.
So, you know what, Patrice, I'd love for you to unpack this, because I love first of all, we didn't get the vote till 1965. Well, first of all, the Voting Rights Act, yes, was passed, but that was only because, again, rogue actors in certain cities in this country were overstepping their bounds and keeping certain black, but not all black people from voting. But that doesn't mean you didn't get the vote. The vote was there actually back. Thank you, Republicans, on this Juneteenth for passing the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. But then Joy Behar, it's like basically what they're saying is you're white, so you'll never understand. That's what they're saying.
You know, it's a good time for a history lesson because, yes, during Reconstruction, post-slavery, not only did blacks in this country get the right to vote, they were elected to offices up and down the political level, including members of Congress. The first black members of Congress were Republicans. And Republicans, blacks have been voting for Republicans for many decades. But this is unfortunately what you have, which is today's civil rights leaders, and I'm putting them in quotations because they're really not, but they are stuck in the 1950s and 60s as though that is the beginning and the end for progress for blacks in this country. And so that's why Whoopi's like, oh, we didn't get the right to vote until then. Well, hello, your great-grandmother probably was voting, but you have no clue about history, so you wouldn't know. And Alyssa Farah has every right as a black woman, just like every Hispanic and every Asian woman has a right to correct the record. And no, you don't need a re-education by Joy Behar because she is just as clueless as her friend Whoopi is.
Yeah, that well said, Patrice. And I just always want to take a moment to remind everyone that show is an ABC News program. That is ABC News.
That's another thing to laugh at.
It's 8:24.
All right. We've got so much to cover with U.S. and Iran and Israel, as well as Pete Hegseth on Capitol Hill yesterday. Good thing KT McFarland is coming up to break it all down with us. Stay with us. It's O'Connor and Company at 8:30.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company. WMAL.
It's 8:37. It's O'Connor and Company with Larry and Patrice. And let's get right to it with KT McFarland because, Patrice, we've got a lot of stuff going on around the world, and obviously most specifically the current status of the Israel-Iran conflict and whether the U.S. should have any level of employment beyond what we've already done. Joining us is KT McFarland. KT, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning. Glad to be with you.
So President Trump yesterday made what I think is a rather remarkable revelation that isn't actually getting picked up much, that Iran offered to come to Washington, D.C. to meet with the president. In America, that's rather unprecedented, isn't it?
Yeah, but then it was immediately denied by the Iranian spokesman. So The question I've got is, who's talking? You know, here's why President Trump is so good at this. He's not going to be rushed into a decision. Events are still playing themselves out. And the two events that you have to look at that are still playing themselves out are Israel. What's Israel able to do? How are they able to further degrade Iran's capability to retaliate, to harm anybody, to have any kind of military whatsoever that's left. The other thing they've got to be looking at is, okay, so what are the Ayatollahs doing? The Ayatollah's been pretty clear. He's doubling down. But he's also 86 years old. He's got, terminal cancer, and he's one of the revolutionary guys. So he'll go down with the ship. He's going to sacrifice. He doesn't mind if he dies in the cause. But you got to wonder, what about the other people in the unit? What about the other people in that inner circle and inner sanctum? Are they saying, well, I'm 40 years old and I've got children. Do I really want to go down with the ship? And so I was fascinated to hear President Trump saying, yeah, they even want to come to Washington. That probably means that someone in the leadership cadre has gone to a third party, Qatar, wherever, and said, look, maybe we should negotiate. So again, these events are all playing themselves out. President Trump knows that he's got his options lined up, and he'll make the decision at the very last moment when the details of this are clearer, and then he won't hesitate.
KT, it's been interesting to see how silent the axis of evil are. All the Iran's good buddies, China, Russia. I mean, I guess Russia has its handful already, but are you surprised at how all these bad guys are just sitting by quietly? Do they just not want smoke from President Trump?
Well, here's the thing. As you point out, Patrice, Russia's kind of preoccupied, right? It's got its own problems in Ukraine. China is all about China. I mean, talk about China first policy. They're not going to do anything to help anybody unless they feel that there's a definite advantage to themselves. And although China gets a lot of its oil from Iran, it doesn't really have any. I mean, what else? They get oil from Russia. They get oil from other places. So I think China may be talking to the Iranians, but they're not going to send in the Marines. They're not going to do anything that would potentially jeopardize them. And I would also point out that President Trump is not going to send in the Marines. What he's looking at is there a one and done? Can we help them in one, say, military bombing operation, and then we're done? It makes all the difference, and then it's in a different place.
Is there a scenario that one and done happens and the nuclear threat is minimized, if not ended, and there isn't regime change? I mean, because there's other voices that say, okay, and then the Ayatollahs have to go, and of course I don't think the president is interested in instigating that, but it could happen just spontaneously because of the strikes. And then what happens? Is this a military government? Is there a republic that is born out of this? Because anyone in Iran has been living for 50 years in the kind of authoritarian, theocratic propaganda. I mean, it's not like there's a good guy waiting to take their place, is there?
Well, remember, the Iranian people is a very young population. I think 70% of the population is under 35. They're well educated. They're very internet savvy, which is one of the reasons the first thing that the Ayatollahs did, they shut down the internet. And then Elon Musk opened up Starlink so they can talk to each other now. And every 8 or so years, that population goes to the streets in anti-regime protests and demonstrations. This is not a popular government. This is not a popular regime.
But they've been educated to hate America, haven't they? They've been educated to hate Israel.
Yeah, but how long is that brainwash? You don't know. Look, we don't know. We're not doing public opinion polls. We don't have guys taking the temperature inside. But one of the things we're pretty clear on is that the Iranian people are not happy with their government, not because of Israel, not because of nukes, but because of the way the government has so mismanaged the economy. There's very high inflation. There's shortages of goods. So will there be regime change? If there is, we're not going to lead it. We learned our lesson in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we should have learned it in Vietnam. As President Trump says, and he says time and again, and he said it when he was in the Middle East a month ago, he said, you choose your own leaders. We're not going to tell you how to think or what kind of government to have or how to worship your God. You do that. You're on your own. So if there is a regime change, not brought on by us, and they're the ones in charge of it. And if you look at where does regime change really work, Eastern Europe is the perfect example, right? It was the people themselves that did it, and they have great governments now.
All right.
Okay.
KT, we got to leave it there. We're up against it now, but thank you for joining us on a very busy day.
Thanks, KT.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
8:42. That's a wrap, Patrice. You enjoy the rest of your Juneteenth, but get back here tomorrow morning,
will.
all right?
Okay, will do. I'll be there.
Up next is Chris Plant, the great emancipator.
That's true. Today we should celebrate the Republican Party for.
That's right.
The last Republicans arrived at the last Democrat outpost where they were still holdouts and they had to be slapped down. Everything old is new again, isn't it? Now they want illegal aliens to come in and wipe their. What do they want them to wipe, according to Democrat
their
members?
Their behinds, I believe, their buttocks, as well as cut their grass and raise their children and clean their hotel rooms.
Pick the fruit.
Did you see Barack
Meet
Obama?
The new boss.